Hello, how are you guys? Welcome to our 22nd class. Today we are going to learn how to use infinitives and gerunds when we talk about uses and purposes, when we want to know what something is used for, what is a use or what is the purpose of an object, of a device, an appliance, okay? This is what we are going to study today. But first, to introduce our subject, I would like to see with you guys a question that was presented in an entry test for Escola Naval, okay? So this question was proposed in 2016, and I would like to see this with you before we begin, okay? So let's see it together. Now, they wanted to see which is the correct way to complete the text below. So we have the alternatives down here, okay, that are going to fill in the blanks in the text, okay? So let's read the text together. Follow me then. About 6 months ago, Google, and then we have a blank, voice typing for Google Docs. So Google did what? Can we say has introduced? Let's see now the part of the sentence that talks about the moment in which Google introduced or has introduced, okay, this app, okay? So let's see it together. He says here, about 6 months ago. So do you see that this is a point in the past? Remember this? So it is in the past, but I can identify when this was created, when this was introduced, okay? So in this case, we cannot use the present perfect. Remember this, the present perfect? We talk about something that started in the past but has some relation to the present. When we want to point a moment when something happened, we have to use the simple past, right? So in this case here, we have to use then, okay, introduces no, right? Because we are talking about the past, and has introduced also not. So letter A is not possible, letter B is not possible, and letter C not possible either, okay? So we have in here two present perfects, okay? I cannot use present perfect with a definite moment in the past, and I cannot use the present because it talks about something that happened in the past, okay? So in this case here, we are going to use introduced, okay? Google introduced means only letters D and E are possible now, okay? A, B, and C are already discarded, okay? So let's continue the text. So Google introduced voice typing for Google Docs on the web. Now, it has another blank and says you to dictate your text into a document, okay? So this applicative, this new feature, it does what? We have here the to allow or allowed. Now, let's see here. So, about 6 months ago, Google introduced voice typing for Google Docs on the web. Now, allowed you, what allowed you to dictate? Okay, it allowed you to dictate only in the past. It doesn't allow you anymore. Remember, the verb to allow means to permit. Okay, no. So 6 months ago, this feature started, but it still allows you to dictate your text into a document, okay? Now, it started in the past, but it continues in the present, okay? So in this case here, I cannot say allowed because it would give the idea that it doesn't allow anymore, but it still does, okay? This feature is still present in this Google Docs, okay? So in this case, we are going to use to allow, okay? Now let's read again, see if it makes sense. About 6 months ago, Google introduced voice typing for Google Docs on the web to allow you to dictate your text into a document. So the purpose, the objective, right, the aim of introducing this feature was to allow you to dictate your text into a document. Okay, this was the purpose. This is the use of this feature. Okay, guys, understand? Now let's continue. Now, okay, of course we know already that the correct answer is letter D. Okay, only the two first blanks would give us the correct answer, okay? Let's continue, right? So, today, it's taking this feature a step further, okay? Do you understand a step further? We have far, and what goes beyond far, we say further, okay? Further is like we would say more far, okay? But more far doesn't exist when we go beyond a limit. So in this case, we say further, okay? So it's taking this feature a step further, okay? So it's developing this feature. This feature is improving, okay? By also allowing you to edit and format your text by voice too. So now you can dictate your text into a Google document, but you can also edit and format your text only using your voice, okay? Now this blank, you can now say things like, okay, so this means, right? This means, because we have now, this is in the present, it means now, it still means that you can say things to Google. Okay, that's the idea of the thing. Okay, so that's why we're going to use the simple present means. Okay, so this means you can now say things like select all, align center, bold. Do you understand what bold means? Bold. Okay, so bold means we say in Portuguese negrito. Okay, so that's bold. Okay, bold letter is a letter that is stronger. The color is stronger. Okay, darker. Now, what else? Got to the end of line, so means you have to change lines, right? I got to the end of line, so you say this, and then Google automatically transfers the rest of the text to the next line, okay? Or increase font size, okay? So, for example, you are using the font Times New Roman or Calibri, so these are fonts, okay? And the size is 12, 13, 14, 16, okay? So you choose the size, the font size, okay? The size of the letters, okay? Or increase, right? Increase is to raise, right? To raise or increase the font size. And Google Docs does what? What does Google Docs do? It will understand, right? It will understand and follow your commands. Okay, let's read the sentence again to make more sense. So this means you can now say things like select all, align center, bold, got to end of line, or increase font size. And Google Docs, so this feature, right, this computer program will understand what you said, okay, and follow your commands, okay, and it's going to obey your command. Okay, and it ends saying you can find a full list of available commands here. So in this link here, you are going to find all the voice commands that this new program, okay, this new feature on Google Docs can understand. Okay, so you can, this is if you want to check, okay, you just click on the link below here and you are going to see all the commands, all the voice commands that this feature, this program recognizes. Okay, guys, so this was an example. I wanted to bring this example because of this part here. Look here. So Google Docs on the web, to allow, remember I said it indicates the purpose, the use of this feature, okay? And that's exactly what we are going to talk today. You can see here in the example, here in the text, that they used an infinitive, right? To allow. And we are going to learn today that it's also possible to use a gerund, okay? So come with me then, okay? So uses and purposes. So when we want to say what is the use of something or what is the purpose of something, we have two options. We can use either infinitives or gerunds, okay? So in the example here, right, the example from the text, Google introduced voice typing to allow you to dictate your text into a document. So the purpose of this voice typing feature was to allow you to dictate your text into a document. That's the purpose, that's the use of this feature, okay? So with infinitives, very simple example. The internet is used to chat with friends. Is used to chat. So in the same thing we saw in the text, right? To allow to chat, infinitive, normal. What is the objective? What is the purpose of internet? So internet, one of its many purposes is to it can be used to chat with friends, to talk with friends, okay? Chat is an informal conversation, okay? A chit chat, okay? Something that we talk about when we meet somebody at the elevator, okay? So these kinds of not very important conversations, okay? Only to chat, only to talk about things, to catch up with each other, okay? So another example of an infinitive, you can use a briefcase to carry your documents. You can use a briefcase to carry your documents. So one of the uses of a briefcase is to carry documents, okay? So in both cases here, we used infinitives to chat and to carry, okay? Now let's change these sentences and let's use gerunds to say exactly the same thing, okay? For example, the internet is used to chat with friends becomes the internet is used for chatting with friends, okay? So we use to chat or for chatting. Remember, when we use the preposition for here, we have to use the verb in the gerund, okay? The gerund is only a verb ending in ing. Remember here that I had to double the final consonant, the final T, because chat is a one-syllable word that ends in consonant and is preceded by only one vowel, okay? Only one vowel. In these cases, we have to double the final consonant before we add ing, okay? So the internet is used for chatting with friends. The second, you can use a briefcase to carry your documents, or you can use a briefcase for carrying your documents, okay? For carrying your documents, okay? No problems here, okay? So you see, it's very simple. These are two ways of saying exactly the same thing. Let's practice a little. Okay, now, what is it used for? For example, what is DNA fingerprinting used for? Do you guys know what fingerprint means? Fingerprint is a mark that you usually leave on a surface by a person's fingertip. Okay, so you have your fingertip, and usually every time you touch a surface with your fingertips, there's a mark here, right? So it is something that can identify you, right? So if a police officer or someone finds that mark there, they can compare with your fingerprint and see if they match, see if that was you, if you were the person who left the fingerprint on a surface, okay? Wow. Now, what a DNA fingerprinting means is exactly the same. A DNA is another possibility, another way of identifying people, right? So, for example, if you want to know who is the father of a child, you can use the DNA fingerprinting. So you can use a DNA process, a DNA comparison, to see if this person is or is not the father of a child, for example. Okay, so DNA fingerprinting is a method that is used to identify people, just like the actual fingerprints. Okay, so let's see here. DNA fingerprinting is used to identify, right? Here I used an infinitive. DNA fingerprinting is used to identify criminals. Criminal is someone who committed a crime, right? So DNA fingerprinting is used to identify criminals, or DNA fingerprinting is used for identifying criminals. Remember, very simple, right? To identify or for identifying. Now, one more. What is it used for? What is a telescope used for? A telescope is used to observe the stars. A telescope is used to observe the stars. This is the purpose. This is the use of a telescope, right? Or a telescope is used for observing the stars. A telescope is used for observing the stars. Okay? And finally, let us match. Okay, so in one on the left side here, we have a use and or a purpose, and on the right side we have an appliance. We have many devices actually, right? So let's match the device with its use, with its purpose. Okay? Now the first one here. It's used to send electronic mail. What in here can be used to send electronic mail? A washing machine can be used to send email? No. A keyboard? Well, not the keyboard alone, right? It's part of what you need to send an email. But a keyboard alone is not, it cannot be used to send emails, okay? So, of course, we have a computer. Okay, a computer is used to send electronic mail. Okay, so in this case here, I used an infinitive, to send. Okay, well, some could say maybe a cell phone can also be used, right, to send emails, right? But let's stay with computer here. It's more usual, but it would also be correct. A cell phone also possible, right? You can, of course, send mail, send electronic mails through your cell phone. Okay. Now the second here. You can use it for calling your friends. What in here can be used to call or for calling your friends? Okay. A washing machine? No. A keyboard? No. Of course, it is a cell phone. Okay. So you can use a cell phone for calling your friends. Now, it's used to do laundry. To do laundry is to wash your dirty clothes, okay? To wash dirty clothes is to do laundry. So what in here can be used to do laundry? Of course, it is a washing machine. And finally, it's used for inputting letters and numbers into a computer system, okay? So to input is to put in, okay? So you can use, of course, a keyboard to input or for inputting letters and numbers into a computer system, of course, okay? So I think everything here is very simple, right? What I wanted to show you today was only the usage, okay, of both infinitives and gerunds when we want to talk about purposes and uses, okay? Hope you guys liked the class, okay? Next class, we are going to talk about imperatives and infinitives when we want to give suggestions, okay? So it's very important. We are going to see how to use an imperative in the negative form, okay? Which many people do not know how to use exactly. So this is something we are going to see next class, okay? Hope you guys liked the video. If you did, please give me some thumbs up at the bottom there. Okay, so I hope to see you in the next classes. Let's continue our study of English, okay? So thank you all very much for watching. I appreciate all the emails, all the messages I've been receiving. Thanks again. See you next class.